Thank you. All right, so welcome, and we're very excited today to have Aslan Meade here, the Director of Strategic Alliances for Thurston County's Economic Development Council. And we get to hear all about the good work going on there with the Ag Park. So I'm going to turn it over to Aslan to introduce himself some more and talk to us about what's going on there. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we'll also have plenty of time for we'll go through those questions after Aslan is done speaking, and have plenty of time for you to ask additional questions in a more conversational way after we hear what you have to say. Go ahead, Aslan.
Thanks, Marty, and thanks for having me here today. Is it possible to do a quick round of introductions and actually see? I know you've been trying to get people to put who they are, who they represent in the chat, but I'd love to actually know kind of the kinds of people in the room and what their interests may be. So is that a possibility to try to go around quickly and just kind of see?
Let's try. You want to start, Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Colvin with Colvin Ranch. We are actually going to be one of the tenants at the Ag Park.
That's great. All right. Glad you're here. And you can also chime in on, when we get to the discussion part, anything you want to add. And Fabiola.
Hi, good morning. My name is Fabiola Greenewald, and I am a program officer working for the Russell Family Foundation. We're located in Gig Harbor, and we started a new program funding. It's called Food for Climate Solutions, and we've done 1 year of funding, and we're getting ready to do our second year of funding with some of the organizations that we supported for the first year. And so I'm just learning what's happening in the region, and I've heard a lot about your organization and the Ag Park, and so I just wanted to get a little more insight on that today.
Wonderful.
Good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Glad you're here. Yeah. Tina, are you in a spot where you can talk?
Hi, yep, I'm Tina. I'm from Thurston Conservation District. I work in education outreach, but I do a lot of work with community gardens and kind of food sovereignty and security. And so I have heard so many very vague rumors about the Egg Park. And so I thought, well, okay, let's go to the source and hear the real deal. So
Excellent.
From the very beginning, I always tried to get the conservation district to locate there, but never succeeded at that. But anyways, you were there in some of the TCD was there in some of the early days. So
Good. Maxime, are you?
Yeah, he's still trying to eat.
Everybody, Maxime Tillet, project manager with NABC.
Thanks, Maxime. And Jeremy? Are you at a spot where you can introduce yourself, Jeremy?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I had a little thing up and it was not letting me talk. Hi, my name is Jeremy Wildhaber. I am out of Centralia, and I have a farm, and I'm a chef, and I do catering, and I'm just kind of wanting to know. I've talked to Aslan before, but I'm just here just to kind of just hear what's going on.
Glad to have you, Jeremy.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
I won't stall any further. I'll get this party started, but thanks everyone for being here. So, all right, let's go. We'll share the presentation. Is that looking right, Marty?
Looks beautiful.
Okay. So while we're talking about the agricultural park today, I do want to just point out that the EDC's regional agriculture development efforts span all kinds of projects. While this is kind of our signature project, we are very much involved in supporting regional scale agriculture, holistically in a wide variety of ways. And I want to really call out that almost everything we've ever done has been with the WSU Extension and NABC involved. As well as many, many other organizations. It really is a collaborative effort to get anything of value done in this work. So So I do want to point out that things like, while the Southwest Washington Grain Project has certainly been led by NABC, and NABC's done just, so much of the heavy lifting. WSU and the EDC were there from the beginning with the creation of the co-op and the creation of the grain project. And, actually WSU did a lot of, of the research that led up to, producers and buyer outreach, as well as grain trials, variety trials to see what grows best in the region. And the EDC has been strategically involved all along the way. In fact, Jake Fay from from NABC and I were just out at the SPSCC Craft District yesterday, which is where we held our last WWFSP in-person meeting. And, I was able to get some funding in the state legislature to put in a grain handling facility and storage facility at the SPSCC Craft Brewing and Distilling Training Program. And so brought in Jake as an advisor. And so, I mean, this is something that's really important to the EDC. We care about the entire ecosystem. We care about the entire, supply chain efforts. And so, we are always looking to help. I helped get the first original contract with, why can't I think of them right now? The brewer and distiller down in Grand Mound. I'm totally spacing out now. Talking Cedar. So anyways, and obviously, the Southwest Washington Food Hub, we were there at the beginning with the formation. We've held the LFPP grants, both the original studying grant as well as the implementation grant. We helped with the formation when we actually launched during COVID with our relationship with Pack Mountain Workforce Development Council to get the first grant that allowed our first box program. And Tina Sharp from the EDC staffs and manages the food hub. So, I mean, just, all of this is really coordinated efforts between multiple organizations, but the EDC is doing much, much more in support of agriculture than just the Ag Park. So I am just going to take a little minute just to honor my boss, Michael Cade, the executive director of the EDC, and say that just tell a little of the history of how we got involved in agriculture. But again, I mentioned Pack Mountain Workforce Development Council. They did an industry cluster study back in 2012, and it identified food production as one of our top employers for the region, really top 5. And that region includes this whole, Thurston, Lewis, Grays Harbor, Pacific, and Mason counties. It's really important that allowed my boss to get involved in supporting this kind of regional scale agriculture, knowing that it's a top employer in the region. I want to really give a shout out to the WSU Extension. Some of the work they did early before our current Stephen Bramwell was director, there was a gentleman, Lucas Patzik, and the work he did really set up the work that I do and a lot of us in the region have been doing. His original Farms to Market assessment really laid the groundwork for the Southwest Washington Food Hub. He created the Cascadia Grains Conference, which I don't know how many people even realize that not only was that held in Thurston County, but it had been created by the Thurston County WSU Extension and laid the groundwork for a lot of the grain work that we've done in the region. He also did work with grazing and starting to look at creating a Tenino brand beef that we have built on over the years. So I just want to point that out, give credit where credit's due. Also, there was this presentation that was done with the Port of Olympia by WSU at that time. And I want you to look at the things on that list because I want to show you that we have done all of those. And when I first came on to the EDC in 2016, I used this as my map of like, what is my job to support agriculture? I used what the WSU had, the research they had done and identified the needs for our region. And I used that as like, okay, this is what my job is. That was my job description, basically. So just want to point out this Pack Mountain. This is still up on the Pack Mountain page. This is a priority sector. So they now, for the first time, even have dedicated staffing to support food production, workforce development in the region. So I'll go through this pretty quickly. But I just wanted to say that, the Port of Olympia actually helped fund my position the first year I came into the EDC in 2016. I started right at January 2nd. And I was tasked with going out and assessing what is the food economy of Thurston County. In my third week, within my first 3 weeks, I met David Bauermeister of NABC's executive director at that time at the Cascadia Grains Conference. And if you had looked at that list, bringing a staff position into Southwest Washington from NABC and creating that was a priority at that time. And so I met David and I'm like, okay, I'm working with you to help you achieve that goal. I think a lot of people don't even realize we take it for granted that NABC is in Southwest Washington, but NABC used to stop pretty much at like Northern King County. Their services did not come down this way. So, you know, I met also the mayor of Tenino within that first 3 weeks of my job. And you know, I was doing something called STEADY, the South Thurston Economic Development Initiative, where we support all the rural communities of Thurston County in a wide variety of ways. And the mayor was like, hey, he had just started his job. I was just starting mine. And he's like, you know, let's work together. He took me out to the site, which was then the Alpacas of America ranch. And he was like, we have this vision of this being an ag industrial park. I was already focused on this idea of an agricultural business center with NABC. And so the ideas merged and the idea of the ag park was born. So our WSU extension director also came in that spring. And I was able to help him get up and running immediately. I'd been working with him for months before he actually got on the job, but I had found out early who he was going to be. And so when he landed, like within a month, we started a producer needs assessment with the Thurston Conservation District. And you know, we were really going out and just trying to find out what the producers' needs were for the region. So also in that first year, David Barmeister introduced me to our Washington State Representative, JT Wilcox. And he became my #1 advisor on the Ag Park. And he also helped advise our first request for funding, which actually allowed us to put in the sewer and water extension to the Ag Park. So I then, you know, a few years later met Mike Peroni finally. You know, he had been working for WSDA, but the grain growers of the region were scheming at that time. And you know, if people know the story of, you know, National Frozen Foods stopped taking contracts in our local valley, the growers needed a new crop, and so we started focusing on grains. At that time, there was a gentleman named Randy Mueller at the Port of Chehalis. And me, Randy, and Stephen Bramwell from WSU took a trip in a van up to Skagit and Whatcom counties to see what our leaders in the region were doing in support of regional scale agriculture, infrastructure development. And that really sold Randy. And he was like, okay, because the Port of Chehalis had never been involved in regional scale agriculture support before, even though now he was, you know, getting all these farmers starting to organize and kind of say, you should be involved. And so I just want to say that in this time period, the Port of Olympia, the Port of Skagit, and the Thurston EDC, we had never been involved in regional scale agriculture. And at this time, it started in this era. And then we were able to actually secure a regional NABC staff to service our region. And now I think we have, what, 4 or 5 folks from NABC servicing the region. So, I mean, we've really come a long way. This was the original letter of understanding that was an effort between NABC, WSU Extension, and the EDC. It was really Mike, when he first came on, and me, we went out and got 30 different signatories to sign on to supporting agriculture and collaborating regionally to work together and not compete against each other. And I really feel like this is the foundation of things like the WWF-SP, certainly in our region. This was, you know, we actually identified specific projects that were illustrating the kinds of work we wanted to do. We were really looking at not competing for funding. We were looking at how do we collaborate across county lines. And so, you know, this approach to supporting agriculture at a regional scale really started in these days as well. So I just want to say this one more time. You know, I do give a shout out to the Conservation District and Pack Mountain, as they were really essential at strategic moments. But WSU, the EDC, and NABC have just formed this 3-legged tripod that has been a transformational for our region. We didn't even have NABC in the region. The EDC wasn't involved in agriculture support. Like, all this happened in my time at the EDC. And now, you know, not only does NABC have multiple staff for Southwest Washington, so does WSU Extension. We have Annie of Helsing Junction fame. We have Sierra. They now have marketing people. The EDC, I was doing all this work alone. Now Tina Sharp is a full-time employee who runs the food hub. It's really it's really does take an extraordinary team, and we have had an amazing team in the region. So that's my little background, and I'm going back to that list from that port presentation in 2014, and we check all the boxes. We now have a food hub that serves our region. We have multiple food systems coordinators. We created a strategic plan in 2019 for agriculture. So all those pieces we have achieved. So I just wanted to lay that groundwork and tell a little bit of the story, but I know that you all came for this next part, but I will take a deep breath and pause for a second. So. All right, so the Southwest Washington Agriculture, Business, and Innovation Park, as Jennifer knows, we've been shortening that title as much as humanly possible, especially because we're about to carve it onto some rock, literally carve it in stone as at a monument sign at the front of the park. So, but really from its conception, it was really to support regional agriculture, so to actually have that value-added, processing and manufacturing component, but also the agritourism component to be a destination that people would actually come to for retail and to learn about agriculture. And then the third component has been that we are embedding the EDC Center for Business and Innovation into the park. So we will have, business technical support, coaching and training. We will have our steady South Thurston Economic Development Initiative office there. We will support rural development. We will have our regional ag development. Tina Sharp will have an office there. And that office space, we will also have training space available and coaching space available. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So for those of you who don't know, it sounds like most of the people are from our region anyways, but I know that with WWFSP that people could be attending from all over Washington. Tenino is south of Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, south of Tacoma, north of Chehalis and Centralia, a little bit off the main drag of I-5. So just wanted people to see that. The site that's outlined in blue is the agricultural park site. You can kind of see just a tip of the Colvin Ranch is actually a neighbor. The property across the street is now mostly fish and wildlife and is open for recreational uses, but there's also some great habitat conservation in alignment with working lands going on, and Jennifer could talk more about that, as well as now an active Tenino Ranch. Just kind of give you a sense of where we're at for those who don't know. The city of Tenino is just over to the right, and then the kind of prairie opens up to the left. You can see a little bit of mild sand and gravel behind us. So this is a partnership. It is a true public-private nonprofit partnership. So the EDC and the city of Tenino have been hand in hand from its conception, going all the way back to 2016. It's been a long haul. Dragon Wheel is a private sector company, and I'll talk a little bit more about them, but the owner of Dragon Wheel had been the president of the EDC's board of directors when he was part of SCJ Alliance, Perry Shea, the S and SCJ Alliance civil engineering firm. And so he was very aware of the ag park. And when it came time for him to start a new business, he had grown up in Tenino, raised his family, kids in Tenino on a farm, actually, was heavily engaged in Tenino. And he was like, why not start my own new company in Tenino? And so we have private sector investment matched with public funds and with a lot of heavy lifting from the EDC as a nonprofit organization. So here, now this is the part I'm sure you're mostly interested in, what's actually going on out at the ag park. So right at this moment, we are finishing up construction. There will be 3 lots that will be completed by, I'm going to say, January, February. I hate saying dates at this point because I've been wrong every single time, but we're getting close. But there will be 1 lot that has the first 2 buildings on it, and then 2 additional lots that are considered pad ready for additional building. And this is our composition of tenants right now. So the 2 buildings that have been built or are about to be finished being built are fully occupied and fully rented by tenants. So in the north building, we have Simply Organics Cafe and Catering. So both very significant catering kitchen, and also a little cafe for actual retail, like people to come in and eat. Bryce Hughes and Bryce and Katie Hughes are the owners of Simply Organics. They have an incredible commitment to sourcing local, and they're catering. They make all kinds of soups and salads and pre-made sandwiches and things that they sell into all over at different points. They've sold from co-ops to Costco, which is pretty amazing. A real commitment to local. I tell this story, and Jennifer is welcome to correct me someday, but one of Bryce is very entrepreneurial, and one of his original little schemes was to have a food truck at the Microsoft parking lot that sold Colvin Ranch burgers back for $20 a burger, back when before all burgers cost $20 a burger. But that idea of that local is value added, and that you can pay top dollar to people who will pay for it. But real commitment to sourcing local. Bryce and Katie will also be managing the event and training center. In the center, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's got about a capacity for 200 people to meet indoors, and then it has a really significant, beautiful outdoor space as well. And so again, that north building is funded by the city of Tenino. I mean, well, it's mostly been funded by me writing grants, but it's owned by the city of Tenino. And the south building is privately funded. So Dragon Wheel Investment Group, as I mentioned, Perry Shea, the owner of Dragon Wheel, has been, he's been the president of the Tenino School Board. He's coached the girls' fast pitch and basketball teams. Deeply engaged in the community. His construction manager grew up in Tenino and now is coaching the kids' teams. And Bryce, I didn't mention Bryce and Katie live in Tenino. Bryce grew up in Tenino. Like, there's a lot of connection to Tenino, except for this Colvin Ranch. I guess they don't have much connection to Tenino. So the Dragon Wheel is obviously not agriculture, but as a funder, it's pretty amazing to have really high quality jobs coming into the city of Tenino. Both engineering jobs, and they're basically a venture capital company, which is extraordinary to bring into Tenino. And they also help design like worldwide gondola aerial transport systems. So just in the innovation part of the ag business and innovation part, Dragon Wheel is an amazing contribution to the park. I will let Jennifer talk a little bit about her business in a second. I just want to Hot Babe Hot Sauce. Many people who shop at the downtown Olympia Farmers Market are aware of Hot Babe Hot Sauce. They've been around for quite some time. They have, through their work with the EDC, have taken almost every business service. They've worked with our Washington Center for Women in Business and got direct coaching. They have taken our scale up business. They have actually sold into our food hub. And we're really kind of treating them almost like an incubator, where we're helping them scale up to a new level of kitchen space. And we're really excited to have them. And then, as I mentioned, our satellite center for business innovation. So the EDC will have space as well. So Jennifer, would you want to talk a little bit about Colvin Provisions and you having your first retail outlet?
Sure, yes. No, we're very excited to be opening our first retail store. So our vision with this store is to really create a showcase for locally produced food in Southwest Washington. So we'll obviously be carrying Colvin Ranch beef, but looking at highlighting all of our other great food that's being produced here in our region. So eggs, poultry, lamb, pork, and then also all of our produce. There's incredible berries and nuts and honey and all kinds of really great food that's being produced locally that we'd like to showcase in our store. So this will not be the place where you want to come and do your weekly grocery shopping, but this will be the place to come to get the best and freshest locally produced food. So we really want to make it kind of a special destination with things that maybe you can't find elsewhere. So we will have specially, dry aged steaks that you can't get anywhere else. We'll be featuring everything that's seasonal and fresh. So that's our vision for the store.
Awesome. All right. So these are just some artist renderings, although this north building pretty much looks like that now. But you can kind of see some of the plaza space. There were times where I was not very happy with that when it came to paying for it, but I'm so happy for it now because we really have this beautiful space. This is a view kind of from the road, old Highway 99, but you can see that the building the event center has this overhang on the outside, so for outdoor events, as well as this big, beautiful plaza space. So what's next at the Ag Park? So as I mentioned, we are shooting for opening the tenant businesses will all be on site and open by February. And then you can see that these next two lots 3 and 4, so both those two buildings are in lot 2. Lots 3 and 4 will be pad ready to build additional buildings. The city of Tenino just recently took on a commercial real estate broker with Kidder Matthews to actually start promoting this. What we're really kind of looking for right now is businesses that would have the ability to build their own building. But it is also possible we will continue to seek and raise more public funding and then just recruit tenants. But as of now, the two buildings that we have are fully occupied, and we do not have funding in the pipeline to build additional buildings. And so we are looking for the private sector that would be interested in building their own building. And that could be anything from, I've been talking with breweries to feed companies, to all kinds of different ways that could still tie into the agricultural theme, but also, create more of an experience for the park. We also have a much larger lot that has not yet been further subdivided, which I'm going to talk about next. And that's really where we're looking for the more manufacturing and production kind of businesses to go. We really want to keep these lots up front towards the main road frontage to be kind of more retail focused, if at all possible. So we are looking, it looks like we're getting very close to securing that we will be doing a meat processing facility at the agricultural park site. Again, we'll let Jennifer talk some about that because it is going to be the Colvin Ranch that's taking on this project. I wanted to point out this little study that we just recently did because it was paid for by NABC. So another great partnership. While the Ag Park is obviously very much under the EDC, we partnered with NABC to hire a consultant and do this feasibility study, this infrastructure analysis for construction. So if we're going to put in a meat processing facility at the Ag Park, well, the private sector is going to actually build the facility, but what do we need for infrastructure? What kind of power and water needs do we need? What kind of access needs do we need? What kind of storm water needs? We spent a lot of time on waste management and what are the options out there? And so this was, again, a partnership with NABC and the EDC to be ready. The EDC does have funds to now do a civil site design process for this meat processing facility property. And so we will be undertaking that process next. This is, if you look at the right-hand side of this, you can kind of see those lots we were looking at are all grouped up against the road, old Highway 99, and this big area, lot 5, everything south of those 3 upper lots, it hasn't been subdivided. So the mayor was just at the planning commission last night, and we are starting the process to start working on a subdivision. And then we are working with Colvin Ranch. And so Colvin has done their own feasibility study to kind of get a sense of what their layout might be or what their facility may look like and what the cost may be. And while we've been leaning heavily in this direction of freeze-dry, I don't know how much Jennifer wants to share at this point, but we may not be looking at freeze-dry anymore. We may be looking at a different model. And so I will let Jennifer talk for a minute here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aslan. Well, as Aslan's kind of been talking about, I know all of us here on this call really care about the sustainability of agriculture in our region. And that's a lot of what the Ag Park here is about. And so for our livestock producers, some of that key infrastructure is USDA meat processing. We have a lack of capacity for that in our region. And as an example, for me today, in order to get the processing done that we need, we have to ship our animals to Eastern Washington so that they can be processed in a USDA facility. And so we're just one example, though. This is the challenge that all of my fellow producers face as well. So for us, really, this USDA meat processing is a key component to ensuring the viability of livestock producers here. So this is why we, initially started this conversation with Aslan a while ago about a solution and potential location. The Ag Park really makes sense for this for a number of reasons. It has been part of kind of that original vision for the park since its inception. So as Aslan mentioned, we're currently in the planning phase for what that processing facility might look like. We've been working with Friesla. They're a Washington company, and they make these modular USDA meat processing units. So you can see here in the image, there's the different blocks, the different color-coded blocks. Think of these as like, they're big rectangles, bigger than a shipping container, but that's kind of what they look like. So a bigger version of that. And they all connect in with each other, almost like Lego blocks. What's really cool about this system is because it's modular, it's very easy to plug in a new unit to expand when you're ready for that. And it also, because they are their own kind of self-contained unit, you can get up and running with them very, very quickly once they've been manufactured. So this is one of the solutions that we've been looking at. We're in the planning phase right now. Moving forward with this, but obviously putting in a USDA facility like this, it is slow going. There's a lot of regulation, but we're making progress.
Thanks, Jennifer. So yes, we do believe that we have some money coming in the federal budget. That's never a done deal till it's never a deal till it's a done deal. But that would be money for the infrastructure. So we do have money to do the civil design to actually prepare for a site work, and hopefully we will have money to actually do the site work. And then, like I said, I think the Colvins have been working with the city to start initial conversations about, land leases and things of that nature. Although, again, in this wonderful story of interconnectedness, the whole ag park used to be part of the Colvins homestead at one time. So it's kind of like coming home. It's also, very convenient as their cows are grazing very close by. So I've said that one of my goals was to have one of the shortest supply chains and get into the Guinness Book of World Records. So, all right. So I'm sure there's information I missed. So I believe this is the part of the program where we open it up for conversation.
That's right. So if anybody has a question, if you don't want to say it out loud, you can put it in the chat. And if you do want to say it out loud, you could raise your little hand icon, or you could just speak up. That's fine too.
Could I have a question? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go Jeremy.
So, mainly it's with the Colvin ranch that I was kind of interested in the USDA processing plan. So that was kind of my main thing. And I'll get more information later. Unfortunately, I just had a hay delivery show up right now, and so I'm gonna have to run out and drive tractor for a little bit. But it's good to know what's going on, and I'm happy for the community that this is here, and I look forward to doing some partnership with everybody. So cheers, and I will talk to everybody later.
Feel free to reach out,
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Yes.
Okay, we'll do it. Thanks.
This just a reminder that you can find all the recordings for all Lunch and Learns on the Western Washington Food Systems Partnership website, which I put in the chat.
Cool.
And this, this recording will go up real soon.
Great. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Thanks for being here.
I had to switch screens here, so let me put it back on the other side. I was just curious, I'm new to this whole learning about food systems, local, regional food infrastructure and that sort of thing. But I was curious with this ag park, do do you have a vision of like how many farmers you think that you're going to be supporting having access to these facilities? Are there any, since it's like value add, is there like a commercial kitchen? Like I've heard a lot that there's like a need for commercial kitchens for people to develop and do, you know, all that kind of value add products also. I don't know if that was part of the organics, the first, you know, thing that you said about this catering and Simply Organics cafe and catering. Yeah, so I was just curious about what else are you envisioning past the things that you have going on right now, including the processing, the meat processing facility.
Yeah, so again, I'll let Jennifer talk some. I know she's done some initial, you know, studies and whatnot about how many they might serve through the meat processing facility. I would just say that the Simply Organics that I mentioned is a private company. They do not intend to rent out their kitchen for other users, which I too bad Jeremy wasn't on. I know he's still interested in some of those things, but he will source from local farms. Certainly we have been hearing the same stories for as long as I've been doing this work about the need for commercial kitchens. We do have a couple of options now in Thurston County for commercial kitchen space, but they're not great. We've done extensive research on commercial kitchens with our WSU extension and the EDC together, and it's almost impossible for them to pencil out as a private sector industry. They basically need to be subsidized in some way, like. And we're not interested in trying to create a new nonprofit to run, you know, a commercial kitchen and have some. We're really creating at the Ag Park a kind of. We build the buildings, you rent the space. So we're looking for a business that would want to, you know, operate within the Ag Park. There's a lot of challenges with commercial kitchens specifically, and some of it is you can serve everybody, right? Like you know. Sometimes you don't have compatible uses if somebody wants to do gluten-free baking or things of that nature. But anyways, that is not a specific use of the Ag Park, at least at this time, but we're always open to discussions. Lord knows we've had many discussions over the years. We do, as again, the EDC with partners helps to run the Southwest Washington Food Hub. And that is certainly a cooperative of over 30 growers all working together to source from the region and then redistribute throughout the region. There are, you know, the chef at the Ag Park will be sourcing locally, and Jennifer can talk about, you know, serving the meat industry. We're always looking for ways to serve the whole region. But yeah, that's what we have at this time.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you want to say anything about?
Oh, sure. Just maybe in terms of kind of the folks that would be serving with the USDA processing facility. So to start, we're focusing just on beef. I think long term we have plans to expand to other species, but for us to get up and running and you know, learn about this is a new line of business for us. So we're starting only with beef. And so for us, you know, there's been many feasibility studies and studies done on the need for more processing capacity in our region. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but we'd be looking at serving folks, you know, today, like me, where we have to go to Eastern Washington. There's other folks I know that go down to Oregon for their processing. And other folks who just maybe haven't been able to grow their business because they haven't had access to it. So today, in order to sell individual packages of meat, you have to have it, the slaughter and the processing done in a USDA facility. Otherwise, the only way for you to sell your meat to consumers is by the whole half or quarter, which is a lot. And you also can't service any wholesale accounts or institutional accounts like food banks and schools. And so it'll create some more opportunity for folks, I think, that want to grow their business, but they haven't been able to because they haven't had access to this kind of processing. And actually, thanks, Emily. I saw your link in there too. And I'm going to see if I can find the study. It was done by Pierce County, but in consultation with Thurston County, looking at the needs for USDA processing for the region as a whole. Let me see if I can find that link really quickly.
We have it up on the WWFSP library because we did a presentation with
Perfect.
with
Yes.
who's the author of the study. Yeah, so I will link
Oh,
to that.
perfect.
We have the study, we have the PDF or the of the slides. We have lots of resources. So that's a great
Great.
idea. I'll pop that in the chat as well.
That's got all of the data. It's a really, really good resource.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you both. That's great. Do we have other questions for Aslan or Jennifer?
Yeah, I have a question, actually two questions. I think mostly for Aslan, but I'm curious about your relationship between the Ag Park and the Food Hub. And then I'm also curious to hear your relationship with the Ag Park and the Southwest Washington Grain Project. I didn't know if part of the Ag Park, if you were going to focus on maybe some grain or grain businesses or any sort of like grain storage or things like that. Yeah.
Sure, and welcome, Jill. And Port of Columbia. Okay, that I'm thinking Port of Dayton. Where the Blue Mountain?
Yeah, we're in Dayton, Washington, and I joined today because we own a 28 acre food processing park. We got 2 buildings on it right now, and we're looking to expand it. And we're focusing on grain businesses. And so I just thought I'd join in today mostly to just kind of hear. I love hearing about other projects and kind of their routes and what they did. So yeah.
And I'm sorry, is that the Blue Mountain Station or is that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Blue Mountain Station. Yep.
No, you're definitely one of the folks that we looked at.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I'm guessing you came in a little bit late today,
Yeah.
but yeah, so right now, most of our grain focus is just a little, 20 minutes south of us at the Port of Chehalis.
Okay.
Is where we've really focused on more of the grain operations currently. And it kind of makes sense to keep that kind of all together, especially because they have a rail transload there.
Right.
And a lot of the funding that is related to grain has gone there. So that we have raised several $1 million to create a grain storage facility at the Port of Chehalis as well. And so NABC has been the lead on that project, although the EDC and WSU Extension have been right there with them throughout the whole process. I did mention earlier that the EDC was able to secure some funding this year to put a grain storage and handling facility at the Craft District in Tumwater with our South Puget Sound Community College has a craft brewing and distilling training program. And so, we are definitely involved and very supportive of the grain effort. It's very exciting to see what's happened, except for this year when the weather was horrible and all of our grain got destroyed, or a large part. But before that, I mean, literally the first year the grain project went in, it was 200 acres under cultivation. The next year it was doubled to 400, and then the next year was like 1,100. And so we were able to keep increasing producer payments each year, and then the weather kind of killed us this year. But the food hub is also now currently located at the Port of Chehalis.
Okay.
It was up here. We had a Port of Olympia building that they were located in Tumwater, but that building was pretty old. And so we have moved that kind of central aggregation efforts down into the Port of Chehalis. Right now that's working. It's a little further south than kind of a central location for us. We have looked at putting it at the Ag Park, but the Ag Park's a little further off of I-5. But at this point, I don't see that ever being located at the Ag Park. Now, we are always open. Like if the right business came in, a maltster, a flour mill or something, that we would support it at the agricultural park. But again, I kind of like the idea of kind of keeping grain operations in one place. But we're all in it together. If you missed that part of the discussion, the EDC, NABC, and our WSU Extension have worked on all these projects hand in hand for 10 years now. And we always, we really try not to compete against each other. We really try to look at a regional solution. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Aslan? Thank you, Emily, for putting that study link in the chat. While you're thinking of your questions, I'll just encourage you all to visit the www.fsp.org website, because there's so many good reports stored on there in the resource library on all different topics, regional, very local, regional, statewide, and national studies. All kinds of stuff is in there. Lots of food system work. So it's a great resource. We
Um,
take a look.
Sorry, I have a question. I may have missed that, Aslan, but in the two buildings that are already built, do you have all your tenants already, or do you still have room for other tenants? And if yes, what kind are you looking for?
Yeah, really, the short answer is yes, we are fully occupied. The two buildings are fully, all space rented. There is the possibility that that some space that's going in as office space right now could be, redesigned and we could squeeze in another tenant or whatever, but that's not, it's getting a little late in the game for that as far as construction goes. But yeah, so we are unfortunately in a way looking for kind of a business that could build their own building, whether that's something like what Perry did with his building, where he built a building and then created additional space for additional tenants. So like relying on the private sector to build the next building at the park, or a business that is an agricultural related business that could build their own building. Otherwise, it just takes a long time to find public funding to build a building. But that is what we did with the North building. I mean, well, we started with a larger design, one building that was going to have all the tenants. And then when we got private sector funding, we kind of divided it up so that, we had two different buildings. The EDC has done the majority of recruitment. And so, I mean, we're looking for, any kind of, obviously these dream kinds of businesses like what Jennifer is doing is a way to really support regional agriculture. But, like I mentioned earlier, even something like a brewery or something that would draw people into the region, get people into the rural population, get people to frequent and come to the ag park, maybe spend some money in other places in Tenino and the surrounding regions, and just kind of create that, agritourism component. So, I mean, from a full-on manufacturer and processor to an agritourism kind of business, retail frontage, we're wide open on exploring tenants. In some ways, we were talking the other day about, God, what we really need in South County is accommodations. Can we in any way make a agricultural themed, hotel of some sort? Okay, maybe that's not matching the original vision of the ag park, but it is a service to the region that is needed, right? And but yeah, that's going to be a big conversation for the Tenino City Council moving forward of how much the ag park remains an ag park. That's all of our funding has been with a focus on agriculture. I know Jennifer and I have fought to keep the name agricultural park. But yeah, we'd love to see a thriving, if you've been up to Tumwater and their market building where there's multiple restaurants and breweries and distilleries and all in one building, and like something that really creates, some retail activated space that people frequent. But we also really do want to serve the region. And if we can find more manufacturers, processors, that we certainly would love to do that. So tend to be good paying jobs too. So
You said that the long name of the Agricultural and Innovation Park now has a shorter name. Is it Tenino Ag Park or is it something else?
I mean, like Jennifer says, everyone calls it the Ag Park, right? I mean, it was the Southwest Washington Regional Agricultural Business and Innovation Park, right? So I mean, the words that we can't seem to get rid of are agriculture and innovation and park. So That's what's being etched in stone is Agriculture Innovation Park.
All right. Are there other questions at this time?
I don't have a question per se, but just for the sake of, oh, never mind, Fabiola left. Well, I was, well, this will be recorded. So for the sake of posterity, I would like to add, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer and Aslan, but this is just like my interpretation. Kind of the question regarding about the link between the food hub and the grain project and the egg park. And I guess I kind of see the difference between like a port's role in this and what like something like the egg park would do would be, I see the egg park as more like food processing and retail, whereas more of like industrial use things like grain storage would be at a port, where it's a basically like ease of transport is what you need. Like that you need to transport cattle to the ag park, but that's just a whole different thing because cattle are located out in the country, right? And whereas with grain and food, groceries essentially, or food, it's you want that to be close to I-5, you want it to be close to rail so that you can access and ship it easily and get it elsewhere. So that's just my sort of how I understand the difference, if anyone is wondering like what different roles different sites play. I feel like that's kind of how it works in my mind.
The ag park could make a great location for wool scouring.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. We're looking into it. We'll have to talk about that. We're not wedded to any one location for sure. I think having to build a facility is the big hurdle for anything, but of course, you know, like
For those who aren't aware, Emily's been working on a wool project of coordinating and gathering all the wool, the wool makers of the region, and there is some central infrastructure that would be very helpful to help that industry, and we'd love to house that at the ag park. So
yeah, we should talk because there's a Department of Commerce grant that's available in April. So let's talk offline. Let's set up a meeting. Because I need a site that would be into helping apply, and I think that'd be a good fit. And we should do a lunch and learn on my wool project. I don't know how we haven't thought to do this yet.
I would attend.
That's a great idea. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
I'm still like I'm still putting the final touches on the feasibility study. It's done more or less, but I just have a few edits and then I'll send it over and we can do it.
I think it's probably too late to put this in here, but anyway, there's the evaluation form link for today's session. And if you feel like filling it out, Jennifer, and it looks like Tina just had to sign off. So I think it's time to pull this session to a close. First, thank you so much, Aslan, for all that great info, and Jennifer for all that you added to it. Appreciate you both being here today. And I also just want to say that we're kind of doing a 1-2 because our next Lunch and Learn on December 12th is going to be Mike Peroni and Jake Fay talking about the Southwest Washington Grains Project. So join in for that.
Thanks for having us, Marty. Thanks, NABC, for all you do.
Thank you for coming, and we'll get this out quick, the recording.
Yeah.